What if I told you the Houston Rockets were going to make the playoffs this season? Most people would laugh and shrug it off as crazy talk. But after all of the moves they've made this offseason, I'm going to explain why that bold claim could come true. The Rockets signed Fred VanVleet to a 3-year, $120 million deal. And while many say that's overpaying and he doesn't deserve that much, well, you have to take into consideration that it is Houston of all teams. No all-star caliber player would willingly sign to this team unless they were getting paid the big bucks. They haven't had a star guard since the departure of James Harden. He averaged 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists per game, shooting 34% from 3 on 8 attempts per game. His ability to score will be a huge upgrade for Houston. They were 28th in points per game last season. And while Fred did have a down year scoring, most of that is due to nagging injuries. And as we mentioned, he shot a career-low 34% from 3. He shoots 37% from 3 for his career, so history would tell you that that shot should improve next year. And his ability to control pace should be extremely beneficial to a young Houston team. Just like most young teams, they play out of control most of the time. And Houston's offense kinda looks like an LA Fitness squad. Everything is just all over the place. VanVleet is a former champion who has been the primary ball handler on the biggest stages possible. So bringing that over to this organization will be a breath of fresh air. And it's nice for him to get a change of scenery because it was reported that he, along with Pascal Siakam, clashed with some of his younger teammates. And while he sorta denied it, it's still obvious that things were a mess in Toronto. I think, like anything, it was blown out of proportion. And nowadays, if you don't speak to a rumor, it becomes true, said VanVleet. What I will say is this: for a team that had been the 5th seed the year before, it was a letdown for everybody. And the same way when you win a championship, everybody's level rises, gets paid, and wins accolades. When you underperform, it's the same. The coach gets fired, your starting point guard is no longer there, and your best player on the team is now in trade rumors every day. It goes hand in hand. There was a mix of guys that had been there, new guys trying to prove themselves, and it didn't work out, he explained. It wasn't a great fit for whatever reason. The chemistry didn't click, and that's probably the most I can say about that. I'd say he handled that pretty well. Things like that just happen. But he isn't a skilled scorer because his playmaking was just as good, if not better. He even set a franchise record for Toronto with 20 assists. The 7 assists he averaged this season was a career high. And what's impressive about that is his team was a horrific shooting team. The Raptors ranked 28th in three-point percentage. So it's not like he was making simple passes to knock down shooters. He had to create for others consistently. Those young guys in Houston need a maestro who can get them easy shots, and that's exactly what he can do. I'm still astonished about how many people are saying that he was overpaid. He is the perfect point guard to bring in if you want to change your team's identity. And I'm not saying he's a superstar or anything, but still, his mentality, grit, and experience will certainly be beneficial to a young team. And on the defensive end, he's one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. Remember how well he defended Steph Curry in the 2019 finals? VanVleet has some of the best hands in the league. He was 4th in steals and 1st in deflections this season. The 5'10 guard is an elite defender. There's no other way around it. Speaking of elite defense, let's talk about their other signing, Dillon Brooks. Brooks is claimed to be the most disliked player in the NBA. But when you put that aside, you'll see how great of a defender Brooks really is. He made the all-defensive team for a reason. He's a definition of a hound and a pest. And I think some don't realize just how big he is. He stands at 6'7" and he weighs about 230 pounds of solid muscle. And when you compare that with his physicality and relentlessness, you start to understand just how valuable he is. The Rockets now have 2 dog defenders in Fred VanVleet and Brooks. Those 2 alone skyrocket their defense, no pun intended. And I'm not saying that these 2 are going to turn the Rockets into the best defense in the NBA. That's probably not going to happen. But they certainly aren't going to be 28th like they were this past season. Absolutely not. People love to point to the Lakers vs. Grizzlies first round and say Brooks didn't lock up LeBron. But if you watch those games closely, you'd see that Brooks played excellent defense. I think everyone just thinks about that last possession where LeBron scored on him and automatically assume that's how it was for the entire series, which couldn't be further from the truth. Offensively, we know Brooks shot terribly, but he's never really been a shooter. His offense kind of reminds me of Marcus Smart's minus the playmaking. Their offense isn't pretty at all, but somehow they can score a good amount of points. Their third major move of the offseason was drafting Amen Thompson, the 6'7" wing guard hybrid who looked very promising in the summer league before coming down with an injury. What stood out was his finishing. His patience around the rim reminds us a lot of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He always seemed to be in control. Players with that amount of athleticism usually try to play at a fast pace, but not Thompson. He uses it in spurts when he he needs it, like on the fast break or when he beats his defender off the dribble. Overall, he has the perfect all-around game. He could run the point while VanVleet plays shooting guard, or vice versa. And I know Thompson's shot is questionable, but his finishing and cutting ability should make him a threat when playing off the ball. Defensively, he fits perfectly with this new-look Houston roster. He competes hard on defense and showcases excellent hands. He does have some things to work on, as expected, but with his size, length, and defensive instincts, he too gives the Rockets defense a major boost. The next move they made was signing Jock Landale. This one is underrated for sure. He's a complementary piece who will provide good energy on both ends of the court. He just really knows how to play basketball. It'll be interesting to see how he's used this upcoming season. And now that we've gotten their new offseason additions out of the way, let's talk about their current players, starting with Jalen Green. He had a terrific year for the most part. He did struggle on defense and didn't shoot great from three, but there's still a lot to like about him. He can flat out get to the rim. He was around 31st in the NBA in shots in the paint, finishing 55%. As he gets stronger and more confident going to the hoop, you can expect him to rise in this category. And at the end of the season, he had an interesting quote that should make all Rockets fans proud. "My guys and coach rely on me. This year, I've approached the game with a different mentality, no matter how I've been playing. With the way defenses guard me, it's really about understanding the game and breaking everything down. It's all about helping my team win. I'm trying to be one of the best players in the NBA. I know I'm young, but this is only my second season. But at the end of the day, it's all built on growth and learning the game. I am here to be coached and learn as much as possible, so that path to greatness could be easier." He really just seems like a humble kid who wants to win. And I know he struggled on defense, but he did still make some improvements from last year. He had some moments on defense where he played solid perimeter defense and got out and intercepted some passes in the passing lanes. His main focus should be to string great defensive moments together more often. I expect a lot of improvement from his defense now that Ime Udoka is the coach. Jabari Smith Jr. is going to be in an odd situation this year because with him shooting only 30% from three, I wonder how he'll fit in. Lining him up alongside Dylan Brooks, Amin Thompson, and even Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet, who all shot below average. He's going to have to build up his efficiency from deep if this offense is going to run smoothly. The thing is, he has a solid mid-range shot, so even when the shot isn't falling from three, he has some other reliable options. His versatility on defense hasn't gone unnoticed either, and he has the opportunity to learn even more on that end from Brooks and VanVleet. And now we've got my dark horse candidate for most improved player, and that's got to be their big man, Alperen Şengün. With Houston adding two good playmakers in VanVleet and Thompson, he will get tons of dump-off passes from those two. He was already able to average 15 points without them. Imagine how many more easy looks at the rim he's going to get now. Not to mention Kevin Porter Jr. is a good passer too. And now that I think about it, the Rockets' guard rotation will be insane. I think KPJ will thrive in his off-ball bench role. He averaged nearly 20 points in 59 games. So if head coach Ime Udoka can get him to accept his part, I think he can transform into one of the best bench scorers in the game, making Houston's depth top-notch in the East, especially when you have two-way players like Terry Eason and Jae'Sean Tate, who play hard on both ends of the court. Terry Eason has already shown that he's a problem defensively with that length. Now we're all just waiting on his offense to catch up. And when, or if it does, he's a player to watch out for soon. But what do you think? Are the Rockets finally heading to the playoffs this year? Or am I overhyping their potential? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.